and not be angry. I think I calmed down. I was angry at my mom a little bit earlier in a different video. I was just mad. No, but, so, okay, so, it's, like, Women's Month. I'm probably not saying it right. Like, Women's Appreciation Month and everything, kind of like Mother's Day, but I wrote it down as also try and talk about Happy Mother's Day. I don't know what to call this video. Oh, wait, I guess I can still make a Happy Mother's Day video in the future. Probably around that time when it comes around, so I'll remember. Okay, sorry, it's a different topic. No, but we're just gonna talk about mom. Okay, so we had, like, really bad relationship. Yeah. It's not the greatest, but it's better. I used to just always shut down everything. She was always screaming at me and everything. And then she changed a little bit more and more, especially as I grew older and stuff like that. And as we talked, and I went to therapy, and then I coached my mom through therapy. I learned things at therapy, so I'm gonna teach them to you, like I do to my friends all the time. Yeah, I was like, a little bit of this clicks, and I'm using it to help myself, but for the most part, I'm not really taking any of it in. I'm just going to therapy so I can teach it to my friends. Not really. No, but I was mostly just going at first because I was like, I have panic attacks, and I can't control and stop the shaking my entire body, and I can't move, and I can't go to school, and I can't do anything. And I'm just freaked out the entire time. And I just can't do anything, and I can't make it stop, and I can't calm down. There's nothing I can do, and I can't control it. And so we were forced to go to therapy because we're like, I don't know how to deal with this, I need to calm down and everything. Because we got all the resources and everything like that, but we don't really want to deal with it. So that's a different issue. Yeah. Yeah, being a wreck is normal. And then years later, I figured out that, I kind of acted like the therapy friend, but I was also just, mostly, the real problem was, I made all of my friends' problems my problems, and I blamed myself for their difficulties and their trauma and their issues, and I was trying to fix them, and I'm like, I can't help myself. Like, I get, like, it's nice that you're trying to help your friends, but no. It's very unhealthy what you're doing, because you're really just helping your friends by actually just not actually helping them, but learning about all their problems and then blaming yourself and using an excuse to hurt yourself and being mad at yourself and being like, oh, they have a worse life than me and all this crap. And be like, oh, I should be grateful and be a scrap like that. Sorry, different topic. No. Focus. No, but my mom, relationship with my mom, it's gotten better since we didn't like talk and communicate like at all. If it was just random outbursts of fighting and stuff like that. And maybe for a little bit, it was occasionally when we were calmer, just being like, oh, this is the cool story I thought of, and I made up in my head. That only happened like maybe once or twice though. Otherwise it's bare minimum, like, oh, do you have a good day at school? Yes. And then you just go in your room and hide and do homework until you're told to do chores and everything like that. And you're like, oh, can I go to a friend's house? Simple things like that. But your mom doesn't know anything about you. You completely cut them out of your life. So your parents don't know anything about you. They don't know. They may or may not know even like your favorite color. Most of the time they even forget your birthday anyway. So they don't know your favorite color. They don't know what clothes you like. They don't know anything about your personality or who you are whatsoever. They don't know anything about your friends, the bullying, your school life, what you like to do, what you're interested in, what books you're into, what stories, what movies you like. They don't know anything about you. And I kept that, and that was a normal relationship. So we have completely separate lives. I was like, I disown you before you disown me. That was the deal. You won't learn anything about me, because even though you know nothing about me, you still hurt me. So if you learn anything about me, you use it to hurt me. And then they would learn something about me in my outbursts, because we would be fighting and angry, and then they use it against me, so I was right. So just cut them out more and more, and then there's a lot less yelling, and then a little being like, hey, my mom probably had trauma, and then she just passed it on to me, which is wrong, but it wasn't her just being completely an awful, horrible person. A lot of it was just taught to her, and she thought I was right and not wrong, and she didn't see any problems with it, so she just did the same thing. And it wasn't seen as a problem, and that I was abused, and that I was wrong, and that it was a bad thing. It was just normal, and everyone was like, yeah, that's not a problem, it's not an issue. And they never did anything about it, and so it was just repeated over and over again throughout the generations, and no one ever made any changes. Yeah, no. But it improved a little bit, because now let's talk about things. We know what to avoid, though, now. We talked a little bit about politics, but mostly just things I don't know about. we just talk about a bunch of things we don't know about. But mostly just stay away from, so you can't talk about who you like, what you like, well, yeah. You can't talk about anything relating to your gender, or your sexuality, or the LGBT community, or any of the, and then you have to filter and change all the gay stuff you've read and seen and that you want to talk about, to being like, oh, there was a guy and this other person. So you're not lying, but you're not being like, yeah, I'm reading a lot of gay stories. And then I also explained to her just recently about, what is it? Poly relationships. I was like, oh, there's poly relationship, and mostly I was just explaining to her, because a friend recently came out to me as ace. They were like, oh, I might be pansexual and ace, and I was like, it's really similar. And my interpretation of ace was, I was like, you're basically just pansexual, and you just took the need of physical intimacy out of the equation. It's more of like, oh, you can still be intimate, but you have to 100% have an emotional connection, and like the person, otherwise there's no relationship. Unlike, what is it, like fuck buddies and stuff like that. In a lot of relationships, they have the uneven balance of being like, oh, mostly physical, but for it to be a long-lasting relationship and for it to work, it has to be mostly emotional, or like, or maybe a little bit less emotional, like on their part, but it's still got to be mostly just emotional attraction. But if that's put like way lower and there's like almost none of it in the relationship, then they have to get out of it right away and everything. And you have to do that anyway in a relationship, because that's not healthy. But then it would be a lot easier for them to realize it and get it and be like, no, because if any of the emotional connection and the emotional attraction disappears, then the relationship is over, because that's what it's based on. They're only willing to be intimate with you because you have that connection, and it's all about intimacy, and then they don't actually need the intimacy. They might be willing to and want to, and then a lot of cases, sorry, let's talk about ace people. I mostly learned because Jollibee, they usually get like groups of people, and I was watching one of the videos, they grew, so if you're like trans, then they ask you a bunch of questions, and then you like stand in different areas, depending on your answer, if you agree with a statement, how much you agree and disagree with it. One of the questions was, I was forced to be intimate in a relationship, or to like have sex in a relationship, or I was pressured into having sex in a relationship. And there were quite a few people that said yes. They were like, hey, at the time, they said like, hey, if you love me, then you'll sleep with me and stuff like that. But it turned out that wasn't healthy, and that wasn't right for me, and that's not what I wanted in the relationship, and we had to break up because I wasn't ready for that, and that's not what I really want. And I would be like, oh, maybe a little intimacy, and then also intimacy can be as simple as just like hugging or kissing on the cheek and just hand holding. That's where I'll have to start. So I would be totally open, 100% being like, I'll probably just try and find someone who's asexual, because I'm like, I'm not there at intimacy yet, and I'm a little bit freaked out about physical contact, but like, I do want it, and I'm only attracted to men, so I knew it was not ace, but I thought I was for the longest time, because I was just terrified of physical contact. You're like, no, you did that trauma. Being hit when you didn't hug and kiss people, and you didn't say, I love you. You're always hit, so you don't want to touch anyone, and you force yourself to hug people, because you can't refuse and you can't say no, because you're terrified of them. You're like, if I say no, they're going to hit me, and they're going to mad at me, and they're going to scream at me. So I can't say no. Yeah, no. Sorry, this is my issues. No, but I was explaining to this to my mom, and then I was like, because she knew, she acted somewhat supportive when I came out as like bi-gender and bisexual, and then she kind of apologized later, but without really apologizing. She's like, oh, there was the one time she admitted, she's like, oh, I hate you. I realized that I kind of hate you because you identify as bisexual. And I was like, yep, this hurts, but I always knew you hated me, so this doesn't really make that much of a difference. And then she's like, oh, the bisexual thing's like a phase and everything, and then they kind of just learned what it was, and they were like, oh, all these people like converted everything, they're trying to make me convert and everything, trying to change me and all this crap. Sorry, different issues. And they were like, oh, this gay and lesbian person on the internet, they went back to being straight. I was like, no, they just found out that they weren't 100% gay. They were just like, oh, I found someone who didn't treat me badly, and now we're a good person, and they happened to be like male or female, and I thought I was only in girls and guys before, but I just was like surrounded by a lot of people who just weren't my type, and I wasn't interested in them, and I didn't really like them as a person. And for a lot of that, it was emotional connection, and they were like, oh, and then it turned, and they noticed that there was a bit of physical attraction, so they're like, oh. But I was like, instead of being like, oh, maybe I'm a little bit bisexual, since I also like this guy, but I'm normally into girls, so I thought I was a lesbian. Instead of that, they're like, oh, no, I'm straight. And it was the same deal, and I was pissed off. We're mostly going to talk about other crap, aren't we? I was mostly pissed off and annoyed because the same situation happened in school. This guy, he was an atheist, and he was gay, and he's like, oh, I had a, yeah. My friend is popular. They were a girl at the time, and they dated a lot of boys, and everything, so, yeah. She was pretty chill, they were pretty chill. They're pretty attractive and everything, so they got a lot of attention with the boys, and then, I also thought I was bisexual for the longest time, because in, like, 7th, 8th grade, I had a crush on them, but then we're like, oh, the entire sentence of us being like, oh, you're dating a bunch of boys, and I was like, oh, if I was a guy, then I would totally date my best friend. And you'd be like, oh, no, this is just you being emotionally in love with them. You're not actually physically attracted to them. It's different. It took me forever to figure that out. But yeah, no. I didn't go into full details of this, no. But I did explain a lot of this to my mom. So we got close to talking about my sexuality. But then she's like, I think I know, like, you like, but she's mostly just in denial about it. And I was like, I'm not bisexual. That's all I told her. I was like, I like one gender, but I'm not going to tell you, because then you'd be like, oh, you're gay, or oh, you're straight, you're cis woman, and so I can't talk about being trans, and then it took us years and years for her to drop my dead name and be like, oh, just call me Max, but even then she was like, oh, I still think of you as a girl, Max can be a girl's name. She finally realized, like, oh, Max can be a girl's name and a guy's name, so I'm just always think of you as a girl, and I call you Max. And they're always like, no, it makes them really, really depressed when you don't call them the right name. In my case, it's my sister, so my mom. And so she finally changed, and then my dad never got on board. He always did name me. But he's gone out of the way, so she doesn't have any of that influence. So he's not hammering on the dead pronouns and crap like that. But yeah, and then so now I just usually complain about work now, and then I'll talk a little bit about different shows I've watched, and different movies, and things I'm into, and like different artists I listen to, but I can't listen to any of the LGBT artists, and then I can't listen to metal either. So I mostly just have to listen to K-pop, yeah. And I was like, I just can't listen to most of my favorite songs and everything around her. Yeah. And then I can't watch anything LGBT or read anything LGBT around her either. And I can't say anything that's LGBT or about that, and I can't talk about religion. Because then all that will just cause fights. Because she's super religious, and she's a Christian and everything, and I'm an atheist, and I'm trans, and I'm gay, and all of that is against her beliefs, so, and she can no longer use that to try and convert me, and she always tried to, try and change me, and they always like, your speech is going to hell, and all that crap again. So, yeah. We don't have any fights, and we get along better, because I don't talk about anything about myself, not my identity, or, yeah. We skip. We just don't talk about a major parts of my life. And then we can't talk about politics either most of the time, because she's a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and I can't talk about schools either, because she'd be like, oh, public schools are like horrible now, because they're willing to talk about, oh, trans people and gay people exist, and just acknowledge that they exist, and that it's not a phase, and it's not fake. And all that will just cause fights. So as long as I don't talk about that, but we are all talking about more, I just usually complain about work. Or talk a little bit about shows I'm interested, but I mostly just talk about the random straight shows I watch, or funny clips, or I tweak it, or I skip over the fact that there are two guys involved, and vaguely give her details about what I'm reading and what I'm watching. And then I only tell her about, my ace friend, because, another friend's, like, and I just talk to her about, pansexual and poly relationships and different types of love, and yeah. Sorry. So it's gotten better, but yeah. I know what not to talk about to not piss off Mama. So we don't fight and all of that. No, okay, so we mostly just talked about Mom. Now, idea I had before, there was a few days of being like, oh, there was a cute video that I watched a little while ago. It was about this girl, and she was like, oh, this guy kept flirting with me, and I was an oper, and I was like, I wasn't comfortable, and I kept saying no, but he wasn't saying no for an answer, and he would just kept being like, oh, I'll date you, like, give me your number all the time, and be like, oh, and then she said, do you have a man and everything? And so, in reply, to get him off her back and to be safe and everything, I've seen a few videos before where, like, she'd be on the phone and, like, they'd pretend to be, like, a serial killer or something. So, to make sure that the Uber driver, whoever was driving the car, the stranger she was dealing with, didn't want to attack her, and just to be a little bit safer and everything like that. But in this case, instead of that, she's like, when he asked, do you have a man? She said, I am one. She said, I am a man. Or she said, I have a man. I am a man. Yeah, that type of thing. And then, like, he shut up right away, and it was a quiet, silent ride, and she's like, this is all I wanted. I want you to stop talking to me and stop trying to make advances at me and pass it at me. No, but yeah. No, I had this idea before I watched it, and then I remembered it. Yeah, okay. So, not realistic. Not people can change. That's a different topic. No, how girls can stay safe. So, yeah. So, like, you can, like, threaten the guy with murder, and then you can, like, in detail, like, go into, in severe cases, you can go into detail and, like, thoroughly explain how you'd plan to kill and torture them. So, they would leave you alone. And then, there was a different video, how this guy helped some of these girls because he pretended to be gay. And I was like, this is this funny thing about, like, acting gay and everything. Oh, that's a different video. But, so I'll probably talk about this again. But yeah, no, he acted gay and everything. Just to try and get this guy from stop bothering the girls he was hanging out with and everything like that. And then he, like, really acted like he was gay, and he started flirting with the guys, so he'd leave them alone. But I was like, that doesn't, like, happen normally, like, at all. I was like, real gays will not just make passes at random men that are obviously flirting with women. So you can usually tell it's fake. I was like, in rare cases they might, and if they think, oh, maybe, like, you're bisexual, so they think you were flirting with guys and girls, then they would be more likely to. And then also there was, like, this whole story of being like, yeah, a guy's gonna make a pass at you if you're straight and you're sitting in a gay bar because you're in a gay bar. So a gay is gonna come up and talk to you. It's just how it works. Because they'd be like, are you bi? Or, like, are you questioning? Do you want to experiment? Like, are you gay? Like, why are you here if you're not gay? It's obviously a gay establishment, and you know walking in here. Why are you here? Because you want to be straight if you're in here, you know, that type of thing. Okay, no. And then there was this random... I went on a tangent, and I was, like, thought about if I was, like, threatened at a club. In that case, it would be, like, some guy thought I looked at as a girl wrong, and this type of thing. Probably, like, if I went to a club, I'd probably end up just staring at space, because normally happens. And I always get told to be like, don't stare, like, you're so rude and everything, and a lot of people hated me because they thought I was staring at them. I know I saw through you, I wasn't actually looking at you, I just found a spot to look at, and I just got staring into space nonsense, just daydreaming all the time. So if I ever looked at a girl, or I might, like, look at a girl wrong, probably because I would be, like, just jealous and angry, being like, I want to steal your man. I want to steal their man, I'd be like, or just being confused, probably, I'd give them a dirty look, because I'd be like, really, you're wearing that? Or, like, really, that's your hair? Like, it doesn't look that great, but probably not that. It would probably only actually pick at them for those things, because I'd be like, really, that hot guy's with her? Why? Just being jealous, you know? Building up my own confidence by tearing down attractive people. Mostly because what I do a lot of things, mostly just because, I see, like, almost all the time, like, the second male lead gets, like, thrown in the bin, and, like, he had, like, a chance, and, like, there's that whole, triangle thing, and they're like, oh, like, and the girl, like, ends up treating the guy as trash and just not appreciating him at all. He's, like, the childhood friend, stuff like that, and we're like, no, just give him to me. Just give him to me. You don't want him, give him to me. I want him. Just give the boy to me. You don't deserve him. You treated him horribly. You deserve to be happy. You don't deserve hot men. Yeah, and then a lot of the cases, I'm like, the main character isn't hot, so you definitely deserve him, because the second character is way too hot for you. Okay, no, so, yeah. So, if, like, some guy, like, started, like, trying to threaten me, I might also just, like, plan murder. Probably wouldn't, though. I'd probably be like, no, I was probably explaining, like, I was facing out and I'm really gay, and being like, and if I was glaring at her because I was really into you. In that case, I would be, like, in that situation. But then that would be when the guy came up to me and wasn't flirting with a girl. You know? And that would probably only case because it would be, like, an LGBT plus or, like, just a ally type of, and more just an open and not strictly, like, gay bar. Just, like, a queer, safe space, queer bar. That type of thing. Okay, no. But how girls can stay safe from, like, walking in the street at night, stuff like that. I was like, just scissors. That was my idea, my big idea. I was like, you don't have to plan murder or threaten murder or pretending you're a killer or anything like that or pretending you hurt people. No, you don't have to do any of that. You can just carry around scissors. And then I was remembering, like in Victorious, there was the whole, like, bloody scissors or something. I don't know. But there was the whole horror movie that they talked about in the show that wasn't real. They made it up for the script and everything like that. No, but, and she, I think it was Jade, dressed up as her. So it was a bride dress, covered in blood, and with giant scissors. I think they were golden. But I was like, giant scissors, that's hard to, like, take around and everything. It's not practical to put in your purse. That won't fit. So I was like, some small scissors. And then I was like, hey, you don't even need scissors. You just need to go like this towards the guy. And just make sure it's away from your hair. And then you can maybe, like, just threaten them, not even, if they don't get the message, with just doing like this. Because guys are always scared of this. They're always being like, cutting off my dick, cutting off my balls. And then you could, like, say something, like, to affirm your gesture, to get what they're meaning. If you don't actually have, like, scissors, and then you could just, also, if you had, like, a scalpel or something that looked, like, really shiny, maybe, like, a pen that looked like a scalpel or something like that, then you could just call it a scalpel and be like, hey, I can cut off your balls and stuff like that. If it got serious, and then just, like, talk about cutting off their balls, or kicking them in the balls and stuff like that, just to get them back off. That was, like, my just big idea. I just didn't feel like I heard anyone talk about it, and remember anyone saying anything about that, and I was like, that's an idea. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that was just my big thing. Okay, that should be everything. Bye.